Welcome to the Coco Lesa podcast. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's episode of
the Coco Lesa podcast.
Hey, and honestly, I just want to start off, or we both want to start off with a real big and genuine thank you. Like, very sincerely. Like, it's very hard for my wife to convey emotion, but
Excuse me.
her thank you is super sincere. But no,
Yes.
like the way our cast is set up, we can really see where our listens and our views come from, and we've had such a strong upswing in our listens from Aotearoa, from Auckland, from Welly, from all over, and we appreciate it. We appreciate the love and support of our community.
Yeah, so just thank you to everyone that's listened or retweeted my stuff through Twitter, our stuff through Twitter, IG, Facebook.
If you don't have the addresses, and you're listening as of somewhere else, so the address for the Twitter, you want to give out the addresses for our social?
The address for Twitter is at Coco Lesa with a K, K-O-K-O, Alisa, A-L-A-I-S-A. And all the other ones are Coco, spelled in the Palangi way, C-O-C-O-A, Alisa, A-L-A-I-S-A.
And you can find us on Twitter, IG, Facebook. We're doing a Tumblr soon.
And we're on Snap too.
We're on Snapchat. And the Coco Lesa website is coming very soon. And so something else we want to get out of the way, this podcast, the Coco Lesa podcast, all other podcasts that we have are brought to you by the HOH Collective, which is our parent company and our family's main business. This is our daughter talking to you in the background. She's wide awake, so you're going to hear some of her in this episode. And it also fits for this episode because we're doing
education, being brown in the education system,
how it affects us as a community, what we need to think about differently, what we need to take more seriously, and so it applies to her. Like, the education is something I've always been super passionate about. It's always mattered to me very much, but as a parent, it's definitely a bit of a different tinge on it. Before we jump into it, I just want to take the time real quick to plug my book. So if you guys don't know, I am an author, and my book is out right now, and it's called More Than Just Surviving Life, Healing and Growth for the Black and Brown Soul. And it's a motivational book for people of color of all different ages, but especially college students, young people, people in their 30s, you know what I mean? Just to express, talk about, help us get through things that we don't normally cover, that we go through and experience in our communities, from depression and suicide and dealing with traumas, you know what I mean? So if you get a chance, check that out. It's available on Amazon in ebook format and paperback. So if you don't like reading ebooks or you're on your phone, you can order in paperback. And if you prefer on your phone, we got that too. So you got anything else you want to cover before we start to jump into tonight's episode?
No, I think we got it all.
Higher levels, remember.
No, I think we got it all.
You sound weird when you, like, you're being, like, you get very robot-y. This is what Jennifer was talking about. You're like, no, I am a real boy. I feel emotions. All
right, let's get into this.
Okay, all right. See? Oh, you got a lot. All right. So we're jumping into gas. So what we're talking about tonight is education and how it affects us as brown people in the different ways that it affects us. And I've got a couple different points that I want to cover in this, but I think I just really want to start the conversation that's been rough for us and is a little rough for us is because we are such a small demographic, and even though we're all individual nations, you know what I mean? We're Tonga, we're Samoa, we're Maori, we're Kanakamaoli, you know what I mean? As a people, as Pacifica, talking about Micronesians, all our different breakups, you know, we're still relatively small, like in global terms, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of things that we miss out on as a community because we don't have representation.
Yeah.
But we're lucky because there are some things that cross over and still apply to us. And so one of my main talking points for tonight about this whole subject is something that was said in another arena. So I don't know if you guys know who Minister Farrakhan is. So Minister Louis Farrakhan is the current leader of the Muslim nation in the States, right? And he was a compatriot, someone who came up at the same time as Malcolm X. And anyway, what he said about today's generation of young African Americans is that we are the strongest and greatest generation that our world has ever known. We are the smartest generation that our people have ever had. We're the strongest and the most capable. We take less crap than our parents and our grandparents and things like that. And even though he said that towards young black men and women, I'm saying the same thing to us as brown men and women, as black and brown, whatever you consider yourself, no matter where you are. We have so much opportunity and so much responsibility because we are the greatest generation that our people have ever known. We're the most intelligent, we're the most sensitive, we're the most educated in a lot of ways. And so we have the chance and the opportunity and the responsibility to change a lot of things. Something that me and Okasan were talking about is, so something I'm super passionate about is homeschool, right? Mm-hmm. But homeschool wasn't really a possibility for our generation because our parents have shitty temperaments. And a lot of their education was learn or I'm going to get the belt. You know what I mean? or what are your experiences with that? You know what I mean? Or
yeah, like they'll sit down with you and attempt to do homework with you, attempt to help you out with your assignments, but because I'm speaking for some of the parents.
A lot of parents are not even first generation.
I saw this meme that said they just repeat the question and louder until they ultimately just like, go get the spoon, go get the belt.
Right. It's like talking to somebody.
They only know how to teach one way, just like they only know how to discipline one way. It's just...
And so learning in that environment is not really conducive to learning. It teaches you fear, you know what I mean? But it doesn't really educate you.
And that's why it's hard being brown in the school system, because when we're at school, we're expected to learn a certain way, and then as opposed to when we're at home, cultural factors come into play.
Right. Really maybe if your parents barely speak English, no matter how much they want great things for you, they can't teach you like English shit, you know what I mean? And so part of that frustration in the way they teach is just that, frustration. Because they want the best for you and they want you to have good shit, and they know or they believe this education is the way to do it, but they can't give that to you.
That's one thing I noticed when I was in school is culturally we're taught to be like obedient towards our parents, our elders, so not really question their rulings. But when we go to school, we're supposed to ask questions
and be loud and speak up, and it's
so then like at some point the two need I don't know, there has to be some give and take, because you can't just expect.
But this is why we're having this conversation, and this is exactly why I'm saying our generation is the only time that this can change. There's a lot of things that we've missed out on. There's a lot of things that we're behind on. But we have the opportunity to change that and turn that all around for our kids. So another one of the conversations that we're going to have actually ties into this next talking point. And finance is also a big factor in our educations, our continued educations and things like that, right? And so I posted a tweet, and I'll actually read out the tweet, but I posted a tweet that was talking about how one of the greatest ways that you can cheat your children, or one of the greatest sources of harm that you can do to your kids, is by forcing them to pay bills and go into work right after high school. And I have it right here, so I'll read it right now for you guys. All right, so the post says, having your child pay bills as soon as they're fresh out of high school and grown is the biggest mistake. I don't care. You're not teaching them anything but to struggle and settle. Teach them how to save, how to do taxes, how to better themselves, support their business ventures, congratulate them on furthering their education. Black parents always ask for money knowing they didn't provide their child with a trust or college fund. Stop setting your kids up to do the minimum. And this is a conversation, again, that was aimed at black families, but it applies to us as islanders. Okay, so look, I know there are extenuating circumstances because if you're in a low income family and you're a single parent, you can't always afford to have your kids not work. You know what I mean?
And so, this is what we were saying last episode, like, our parents, like, in terms of long-term generational thinking, this is the same. Sometimes we don't have the privilege if we're in low income.
Because we're just trying to get by. Exactly. We're just trying to exist. And as much as you want your kid to do other things, sometimes you gotta be like, nah, like that's for your younger siblings. You need to go to, we need food. We need to pay the bills. And
exactly. I worked all throughout high school. And that's what a lot of students, like, not even directly after high school, people work. They work throughout high school. Yeah. And the money they're going isn't to savings, it's
to the household bills, exactly. To paying for all the miles, to making sure.
So while I agree with that post, that's a very privileged, like,
yeah, no, I get that, and I understand privileged. That. But that also takes us into our next point, and our next point is homeschool. Homeschool is, so one of the two things that's most important for us as people of color, as brown people, as Pacific Islanders, that I talk about in the book, and there's a conversation we have all the time. It is almost impossible to feel good about yourself, to feel good about your people, to feel good about your future, look at yourself in a positive light if you grow up and everything you see on TV is Palangi, looking all beautiful and glamorous. Everything you read about in your history books is Palangi and how they saved the world and saved us from our savagery and educated us. And then you go to church and the God that you worship is Palangi, and that's gonna rile some people up, but it's whatever. So you're learning your entire life to love and worship and glorify Palangi. So it's not even about being represented in Palangi books. It's about having our own curriculums, our own educations, our own schools, our own books. And there are two ways to do that. One is homeschool. But we come from a lot of families where there's not anyone who can afford to take time off to homeschool the kids. Or if it is, it's your grandmother or your mom who's not working anymore. And then that just takes us right back into our original conversation about them not having the temperament to teach. And even deeper, when you get to a certain age, they don't have the energy to do that shit. So then you're getting the belt even faster.
Yeah, I feel like homeschooling is a privilege as well, because a lot of, like, for school, for a lot of Islander parents, is they drop them off at school so that the school can look after them. It's like daycare.
Right, because they don't have anyone to watch them, right? So if they get an education, that's a bonus, but having their kids be somewhere safe where they're supervised is like the main goal, right? And
so
I totally get that.
Homeschooling is...
So look, here's our other alternative, but I'm gonna tell you what I think is the main problem with it, right? So our other alternative is having our own schools, right? So I was having this conversation with my senpai earlier, and that's a coworker, right? And she's Maori. And my view on it is that one of the things, we may be humble people, we come from humble beginnings and all of that dope stuff, but something that every Islander has in abundance is pride. And especially pride when it comes to this is who I am and this is where I'm from. I'm Samoan. I'm Samoan. I'm Tongan. And so,
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, but it gets in the way of things. When your pride is so strong that it stops you being able to adopt somebody else's methods or learn from something somebody else has done, it's an issue, right? So one of the two number one groups that have schools, their own schools, are Maori and Kanaka Maoli. There are Native Hawaiian schools and there are Maori schools. And the dope thing about both of those schools is that not only do they teach the language, which is one of the important parts, one of the most important parts, because it's how we maintain our history and culture, but Maori school and Native Hawaiian school also teach our history, our culture. Pre-colonization, they teach our religion and our faith about our gods.
Secondary schools, that may be true, but secondary schools here in New Zealand, which is different to Australia that I've noticed, they have language. They have like curriculum that is for some like.
But you're still
Samoan class, Tongan class.
But you're still, even if you're learning your language, you're still getting it largely with a Palangi narrative.
But that's still a step.
It's
forward.
a step up. It's a step up. But I'm saying we can do better. I'm saying we can do better. And the reason, and so it's the same conversation we've had in terms of our daughter. There are Samoan schools out there and things like that. But my issue with the Samoan schools and the Tongan schools is almost none of them are non-secular. And for you guys that don't know what non-secular means, there's no non-religious schools. There's no schools that just teach education. It's not a bad thing to have faith. But if all your schools are teaching Christianity, you're still getting the same. You're getting even more intense than just getting the Palangi education in your history books. Because when you teach faith, it comes with so many extra things. And you're still teaching a faith that's not ours, that doesn't come from
even
us.
in public schools that are non-secular here in South Auckland, I can say I went to a high school here that is not supposed to be a religious school, but every assembly we do a prayer. Every little assembly we do prayers.
And these are tools of colonization, and this is the reality of it. There's no other way to put. These are tools of colonization, and it keeps you locked into that white Jesus. It's so funny. Like, we have so many white supremacists that are black and brown because we get such a Palangi education from the very beginning that we don't even really realize that the things that we do and say and think are against us and for other people. You know what I mean? And that's one thing where it wouldn't be a bad thing to say, oh, the Maori and the Hawaiians have done this right. Now let's do this for ourselves. Let's have big schools for us with an education and curriculum that passes the test, but this is our culture, this is our faith, this is our beliefs.
I think education is a very big topic because there are so many, especially for our people, like we go through a lot of struggles.
We do.
As like, I remember one thing my mom used to say, or a lot of islanders say, oh, there's no difference between a Desert 1 school and a Desert, like a school is a school.
But that's a lie that we tell ourselves. It's a lie that we tell ourselves to not feel bad about not being able to give our kids better.
Is the opportunities that you get
are completely different.
Exactly.
Are completely different. You know what I mean? And
like, they don't even have some subjects in Desert 1 schools that they offer at private schools.
Same conversation that Malcolm X had, right? And this, he did an interview one time, and they were like, why do Muslims feel the need to have their own schools? And